Hello, all righty. We're live. We got Pinot time again. We're a few minutes early, but I think that's simply because I needed a drink today. It is Thursday, right? Cheers, Ben.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right. So today we have got our 2016 Sonoma Coast and our 2016 Russian River Valley. I figured to do kind of our next Pinot time. It might be easier for everybody if they already have some wine in the cellar. You probably have a Russian River Valley wine of ours because we make how many Russian River Valley wines? Seven, right? And then we do a Campbell Ranch, which is Sonoma Coast, true Sonoma Coast, and we do a Charles Vineyard, which is Anderson Valley. So as long as you have one of our 7 Pinots in your cellar, join us. If you have a Russian River Valley, even better. If you have a 16 Russian River Valley, oh my gosh, even better. So, and then we, of course, we have our Sonoma Coast. So Ben and I were talking a little bit earlier about the appellations of Russian River Valley and Sonoma Coast, right, Ben?
That's right.
I was saying that originally we were, all the wines we made were, that they all said Sonoma Coast on them. We were not Russian River Valley when we first started.
River Valley and the Peters Sonoma Coast.
Oh, Laris was Russian River Valley. And then the first blend we made was, what did you put on that for?
Well, the 98 was a Russian River Valley. Our first.
If anybody has that in their cellar, I'd love to know. I'd love to know about that.
That was 75. There was 75 cases in that wine.
Yeah, I don't even think you have many cases of that. Oh, Michael Hill's got 14 Sonoma Coast in the glass right now.
That's a good
Very
one.
Nice. Yeah, that is a good one. I'm 2 years behind you, Michael. I've got the 2016 here. But I was also doing a little research today, and I was learning that Russian River was granted its appellation status in '83, but in '05 it was enlarged. And then at that point, our Peters Vineyard kind of fell. It was already Sonoma Coast, but kind of also fell under Russian River. So our 2005 Peters started saying Russian River on there.
What happened in 2005 for a long time? Am I getting it?
Yeah, you're kind of getting a little bit of an echo. I don't know what is. You're going in a tunnel for a little bit too.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, it's not good. I don't.
Simone's
coming to help you.
Those ones.
Simone is Ben's second daughter. He has 2 daughters. Julia and Simone, and I'm guessing Simone is going to be helping him. But I guess I can keep talking, or I can keep drinking. Cheers. Hi, Simone. There's Simone.
I don't know. It's not working.
That's better.
Yeah?
Yeah, you sound better.
All right, good. So
wow. You're back. What?
It's not working.
You're being dressed. Yeah, it is working.
Boy.
All right, technical difficulties again, everybody. I apologize.
Well, I hear you well. I just have to put these in there, so.
Yeah, you can be in there. That's fantastic.
It doesn't matter.
Everybody else can drink with me.
All right, so can you hear me or not? Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, which I'm going to assume everybody else can because nobody's saying anything.
All right, good. That's good. They're okay. What happened was actually Gallo was they had the big vineyard that they put in on the grade going to Petaluma once you leave Roanoke Park. Yeah, once you go up the grade there, they had planted this huge vineyard, and they wanted to maximize their amount of money they were getting for their grapes. So they pushed really hard to expand the Russian River. In 2005, they were successful, but a lot of the growers in the Russian River were objecting to that, enlarging the AVA. And Nick was one of the guys that fought Nick Larson, one of the guys that fought that tooth and nail because the Russian River Valley Growers Association didn't want to see the AVA expanded. So it expanded. They went with the fog line and how much water was going into the Russian River from that area. So they expanded it, and we then changed Peters Vineyard from Sonoma Coast to Russian River, but I had kind of wished we kept it in Sonoma Coast, but it doesn't matter. The fruit stayed the same.
The fruit stayed the same, and I'm thinking that most people don't have a 2004 Peters or Mokaida. Well, that was the first year for a Mokaida, but a 2004 or earlier. Those are the bottles that say Sonoma Coast on them, and in 2005 and forward say Russian River. Although we did open last week when Charlie came by the winery, we did sneak and open an 04 Mokaida, and it was interesting for me to see the Sonoma Coast label on it because I'm not used to it. So yeah. It was a little different. Well, everyone is telling you your sound is better, and Jack and Jan from Cincinnati are on. They were in France with us. Hi, guys. I also want to say hi to Jim Cullen. He was chatting with us on chat today. Kind of cool. And then I know Jeff and Lori are on as well, and they are drinking the rest of their 16 Sonoma Coast from last night and are going to delve into the Russian River. So they're right with us. Wow, Neville's on too. Awesome. I'm so glad to see all these familiar names pop up.
I have to turn all my stuff off because dinging and danging.
Yeah, put your stuff on vibrate. You're in class now, Ben.
Yeah, we did. I turned it off.
This is what you have to do.
It's all new, you know.
I hear you. So what do you think of the 16 Russian River?
It's beautiful wine. For this particular glass of wine, it's beautiful ruby in color. It offers a really pretty nose of cranberry and rhubarb and cherry. I mean, it just is lovely with hints of barrel toast and earth. You know, that I think part of that layers that's in there, that earthy mineraliness of it. It's really beautiful. And you know, as you go, on the nose, it just mirrors those rhubarb and cherry and cranberry. It's just beautiful. And then, you know, the earthy minerality of the Russian River is what's always very seductive for me on these Russian River Pinots, especially the Russian River Valley blends. The best of all the different vineyards.
I asked you a few weeks ago, which of our Pinots did you feel most defines Papapietro Perry as a whole? And I think your response to me was the Russian River Valley blend.
It does, yeah, because it's got the best of all the qualities of the different vineyards we work with. For the Peters vineyard, for example, it's definitely driven by cherries, and we'll talk about that when we drink that wine, and pie spices, and the Laris, because of its central location on River Road, close to the Russian River, you get the earthy mineraliness of that vineyard comes out, and that to me is the quintessential example of what Russian River Valley Pinot is.
And have you always had a palate for wine? Have you always been able to pick up these nuances, or is that your 20, 30 years of wine making? I don't want to know how long you've been drinking wine, but is this something you've learned? Is this something that's innate? Is this something that you just, I don't know?
Something I practiced for a lot of years. You had to drink more wine and kept practicing and practicing, learning, drinking, learning. And I encourage people, if they're short on words, just keep drinking. It'll come to you. You'll start getting these nuances of the wines as you taste them. I started drinking wine as a young child. My grandparents made wine in the Mission District of San Francisco. The whole family did that. And then, you know, during Prohibition and Depression, World War II, that all stopped. My grandparents made wine, though, up until the 50s, but their kids were not that interested in it. They ended up wanting, when they came back from World War II, they just want to have families. You get back to life. So they made a little bit more wine, but they had a country home in Sonoma, and my grandfather used to go and buy jug wine, and I used to go with them, and they let us sample wines out of these little paper cones that they had with the water, you know, the water stand. And he tasted, and he'd be arguing. I think it was Sebastiani, who's one of the guys. And they'd go back and forth. My grandfather would offer 95 cents. Oh, $1.25 a gallon. No, I'll give you 97 cents. And they went back and forth the whole time I was drinking. So I had an early start in drinking wine in my Italian family.
That's funny. Wendy Nunes is on here, and she said you have a very parallel story to Fred.
Yeah, well.
And I remember Nick telling stories about him stealing wine from his dad's barrels and selling it under the bleachers to his high school buddies.
Yeah, you can only put so many rocks in the barrel, though, before there was no wine left.
See, I grew up supposedly putting water in the liquor bottles. I don't think my parents had much wine, so I wasn't able to really do that as much. But what was I going to say? Oh, Nick Laris is our Laris family wineries. He's our grower. And Wendy and Fred Nunes, obviously, make our Nunes wines. They grow the grapes for those. So we have great relationships with all of our growers. All of our single vineyards are named after the growers, and they're pretty much handshakes. Right, Ben? They're not, you guys don't really do those.
Well, I'm very pleased and proud to have the relationship with the growers that we have. All of them are small family growers, Nunes and Laris and Peters, Booker. Booker is also a organic milk dairy farm and grape grower. The Charles family up in Anderson Valley, and the Campbell family out in the coast, and all families. And we named all of our vineyards after the people that actually own the vineyards. It's kind of a way to recognize them, and are very proud of the fact that we've done business since '98 with a handshake, and I think that that is a very old school way of dealing, and it served us very well all these years.
Yeah, it definitely has. Well, let's go into the 16 Sonoma Coast. We make two blends. We kind of went through this on Tuesday at our Tuesdays in the Cellars, but we make two blends. We make a Sonoma Coast and a Russian River Valley. However, we don't always make a Sonoma Coast. So in 2015, let me take off my dog's collar. Sorry about that. In 2015, we did not make a Sonoma Coast. Oh, you have yours? Here, I'll choose one on the bottom.
Cheers. Yeah.
We didn't make it in 15.
I'm drinking the glass of wine that I said I am. Here's my open Russian River.
Is there? Oh, okay. Here's mine. Does it show your bottles? Woo-hoo.
Well, everybody's standing around me telling me not to drink too much of it because they want to drink it for dinner tonight.
I was saying, you're not driving. No.
Yeah,
You have wine at home. You have lots more wine they can delve into.
I do. I know.
I don't feel bad for them at all. Yours is a good house to be sheltered in place at, I gotta tell you.
So talk a little bit about this wine. It's definitely the dark garnet in this one. On the nose, there's red and blue fruit, beautiful red and blue fruit, and generous spice and toast notes. I mean, you could just, it jumps right out of the glass at them, you know. The palate delivers a rich dark cherry and raspberry, tangy pomard fruit, and it just a long lingering, beautifully balanced and lovely acidity in this Sonoma Coast. A little cooler growing region, and the vineyards that we use for this, unfortunately, one of the vineyards we were working with in Green Valley decided not to continue in growing. So I don't know what he's done with that vineyard, but we had high hopes for Mill Station there for a while. I think he decided to grow some other crop. I don't know.
And that Mill Station is in this one?
I believe so, yeah.
Nice. It definitely has a different nose than.
Also, we had some other vineyard that one of our winemaker friends had a little bit more fruit than he was going to use. And so we couldn't mention, and they didn't want us to mention what vineyard it was, but it was right on the coast also. So that was part of this this particular blend.
Nice. It's delicious. And so, okay, so to confirm, and actually I have a map I can put up, but the Russian River Valley appellation sits primarily in the Sonoma Coast appellation.
Yes.
Right? In essence, Peters could be both. For example, Peters, you could choose to use the Russian River Valley appellation and or the Sonoma Coast appellation. So you could pick either one.
All the appellations all the way to the Sonoma Coast, which is, I mean, Sonoma
Do you want me to put a map up?
Well, you can, yeah, if you have one.
Yeah, I do. Watch this. Ta-da!
Oh, look at that. Yeah, so you could see it. The range from very far up north, right on the coast, past Annapolis, is the Campbell Ranch. Then you come down a little further, it's Fort Ross AVA. Then Sonoma Coast continues through the Petaluma Gap, which is all still part of this Sonoma Coast, and it goes all the way down to San Pablo Bay, and it travels along that ridge of mountains that separates Napa from Sonoma. And that's where that fog belt from the ocean comes in the Petaluma Gap every day almost. That, you know, early 3:30, 4 o'clock, the breeze comes up, brings in the fog, and that fog travels all the way down to San Pablo Bay, and that is considered the premium Pinot growing region because the cool afternoons, warm mornings and afternoons, and then it cools off, and the grapes love that.
Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons it's known so well. So the question is, right, if they're so similar, what is the difference for our Pinots with the Sonoma Coast and the Russian River Valley? I mean, are they the same blends, or what differentiates the Russian River from the Sonoma Coast?
Different areas. I mean, I use the Campbell Ranch as a base, and I use the Russian River Valley wine grapes, the growers that we have for the Russian River Valley. So we make the vineyard designate, the leftover parts, because they don't want to make too big of a vineyard designate. I use the parts that I don't use in the big vineyard designate. The difference is usually the age of the oak. I use the newer oak on the vineyard designates, and the 1 and 2 year old barrels that we use usually go into the Russian River Valley. So we select the best barrels to go in the vineyard designates, and the parts that are left over. And I have lots of different odds and end parts of all these different vineyards. That's why the Russian River is never usually the same. It's always very good, but it's never the same components. Whereas the vineyard designates are basically the same components year in and year out. And then for the Sonoma Coast, I use the vineyards that are closer to the coast. Plus, whenever I have a new vineyard that we're working with and want to work with, we'll experiment for a few years because I want to learn how the vineyard works, how the grapes mature. And so instead of trying to push it directly to a vineyard designate, I like to work with it a while, so it gives me a chance to play with it and see if it lives up to our standard for a vineyard designate. Not all wines, not all grapes go into a vineyard designate. They're good, but not that good. They go into the Russian River Valley blends, and if they're okay or similar, they don't make the cut.
So pretty much they're different. The Sonoma Coast can have more vineyards in it, but regardless, they're different percentages of each of the single vineyards and such.
Yeah, and I try to keep them separated by the ones closest to the coast and on the coast for the Sonoma Coast. But Peters could be Sonoma Coast because it was, and the vineyard itself didn't move. The line moved around.
The line moved.
The vineyard is still in the same place it was when it was in the Sonoma Coast. So we can use some of the Peters vineyard easily in the Sonoma Coast when there is some extra Peters vineyard.
When there is. And actually, very nice lead into David's question. David just asked, where is the Mukaida? But the Mukaida is the top 8 to 9 barrels of our Peters vineyard. And it says on the Mukaida, it says Mukaida vineyard. And Ben, why does it say Mukaida vineyard when there really isn't a Mukaida vineyard? Does it say Mukaida vineyard?
Yeah, and the deal is, it actually, when we started working with Randy, we didn't know that the vineyard actually was owned by his father-in-law, Tom Mukaida. And Tom was an apple grower that during World War II was put in the camp. And when he came out, he bought little pieces of these property. Now I think it's close to 30, 35 acres, planted with grapes. And the grapes with apples the apples in the 80s started to drop off. Washington was getting so when we met Randy, he was growing. They were selling all their fruit to Gallo mostly, and so when we started working with him, we just took it for granted it was Peter's Vineyard, so we named it Peter's Vineyard. And then over the years, we kept meeting Tom, who would deliver the grapes. So the Japanese gentleman came with every load, and so try to figure out who he is. Well, that's my father-in-law. He owns the vineyard.
Hello.
So in 2004, where we were at our other location, all the equipment was being used by the bigger wineries. So that one delivery to Peter's Vineyard, we kept separate and hand sorted it like we do now. But in those days, we weren't able to. We dumped everything in a big hopper, and it just made mush. So this particular day, we used this little hand operation, hand sorted it, and made 10 barrels of this. I wrote on a chalk on the end of the barrel, Tom's, just Tom's. And so that 10 barrels were fantastic. And our broker, Richard, came by and tasted it. He was so shocked. He told me the story. He goes, when I tasted that wine, it made me feel like I was 16 years old and got my first kiss. It brought goosebumps to me.
Wow.
So we kept it separate.
It's not in the room, right?
No. And so that first year we made it in that style. We got 95 points of world-class wine with the Wine Spectator. So we decided to continue to make it. And what we did was, now that we hand sort everything, we picked the 10 best barrels from the Peter's Vineyard every year. It's a little bit different. We try to be really consistent with the Mukaida, but it's the 10 best barrels of that. And we don't make any more. 10 barrels, that's it.
If anybody knows how many cases of wine are in a barrel, comment in. I'm curious if anybody knows that. Don't say, Ben. Don't say yet.
I won't say anything.
Don't say a word. See if anybody knows it. And then somebody said they had they accidentally opened an 18 Russian River instead of the 16 Russian River. And personally, I don't think it's a problem because the 18 Russian River came in the Spring Wine Club shipment. We release wines when they're delicious. Okay, Dan Russell just totally cheated. He works for us, so of course he knows. Well, he better know, and luckily he's right. All right, Christopher, well done. Either you cheated or you're new, but I'll give you credit. Dan Russell said 25. David and Christopher both said 25. Walter, you were close because I'd like to take 3 cases home, but good job, you guys. Oh, we're 300 bottles. Well done. Someone did the math. Good job, Michael. Thank you. They all know. Apparently, they all know how many bottles. So that means we make about 250 bottles of the Mukaida.
Well, you made more than 250 bottles.
250 cases.
12, and then you'll be
I'm
right.
clearly not good at math. That's why I suck at homeschooling. Woo, I can do this though. Maybe about 250 cases of Mukaida. Mukaida is a wine club only allocation basis. Being released in June. You guys are writing the tasting notes soon.
What happened was when we sent the bottles out to be printed, we print them ahead of time. We wanted to have it Mukaida block on the label, but I think that the printer just figured everything was vineyards and put Mukaida Vineyard. It should have been Mukaida block.
Why didn't you change it?
Wanted it to be.
Why did you not change it?
Once it's out and we got 95 points, what are you going to do?
I just wanted to hear you say 95 points. Yeah, we were stuck. Oh, on that note, though, actually, it is interesting. If you notice on our bottles, they are silkscreened. They are not paper labels. Everything is printed. It's silkscreened in there if you can see it, which, you probably have a bottle in front of you, but the beauty of that is no dings or damages taken in and out of your cellar, no drips on it, easy to clean. The bad piece of it, or good for us, but bad for business maybe, is you have to order the correct amount of glass because our bottles are pre-printed with the vintage year. So if we don't fill them, we can't reuse the glass. So we usually make some, yes, David, you're right, except for the early 2000s. There are some old paper labels out there. You're absolutely correct.
Well, so what happened was we had the paper label with the foil, the copper foil around the outside of it. And the bottles were a little bit bigger. We used a little different bottle at that time. And when they were loading them in the boxes on bottling, they would ding them. And there'd be a little peel in that. And that was driving Bruce crazy. He was not having that. And no matter what we did, it would get these scrapes, and people would buy it on the shelf, and they'd find a little ding on the label, and they'd push it to the back and wouldn't buy it. So Renee and Bruce had a conversation about it, and Renee found Bergen Glass, and we were one of the very first clients of Bergen Glass, early client of Bergen Glass for silk screen and baked. And then our 3 liter, the big bottles are actually engraved. The same thing, but they're actually engraved.
Yeah, Ben likes to sign those. Oh, hey, Frankie. Yeah, Ben likes to sign those for you. Well, and magnums too, because we make magnums. We only make 4 3 liters per Pinot lot, I guess you could say, single vineyard clones and whatnot. And yeah, the 3 liters are actually engraved. The bottles are engraved while the wine is in the 3 liter, where our regular magnums and 750s, the bottles are engraved first. So my point to all that is, if you don't order the correct amount of pre-labeled glass, for lack of better words, we have what are called shiners, which means there's 0 label. We don't know what it is, but those are the wines that the winery staff gets to take home sometimes. We just write on it with a marker what it is.
What you mean to make more shiners, so those little devils.
I like it. Well, we're happy to drink whatever we can, whatever you want to gift us. We are more than happy to drink. I'm sure everybody would agree with me on that one. But yeah, no, absolutely, our wine is fantastic.
I like to make, I've been watching, now we're all watching a lot of movies and stuff on television, and I've watched 2 movies in the last couple of nights where there was scenes of people drinking wine, and important scenes, right? And
what movies? Ben's a big, huge movie buff.
And I see these people grab their glass like this by the bowl, and big movie stars grabbing it and talking and drinking their wine like that. I go, what are you, an idiot? I mean, the idea is that's why stems are there, to grab by the stem. You can always tell rookies by the guy grabbing the bowl and making the wine warm. So when you see somebody grab it like this, you know that they're still learning about wine.
What about like this?
That's professional.
That's professional.
You practice to people when you, not anymore, but you used to be able to.
And why do you not hold it like this?
You warm the wine up, and you get your fingers all over the bowl, and you don't really get this, especially if you're eating like ribs or something. You got greasy glass, yuck.
All right, you've been warned, if you come to the winery, do not talk to Ben like this.
No. You might be corrected. I don't know. You can drink it any way you want. I don't care. I just think when they do it in the movies, you'd think they'd be a little classier,
You would think. Let's write a letter. Let's write a letter to Hollywood. They're doing it all wrong. Oh, Michael agrees with you. I love it. That's fantastic. I hope everybody who is drinking their wine like this, listening to us, immediately move their hands down.
It'll keep it at a better temperature, that's for sure. So.
Well, and I will tell you, the shape of the glass matters. We just did a Riedel seminar, and Ben and I are drinking out of, well, we both have our logo glasses, but we are drinking out of classic Pinot Noir glasses. These are made specifically for Pinot, and I hate it, but it totally
I almost bought the other glass out with the Somme glass, the really nice one with the rim on it, but it didn't have our logo, and for the show, I'd like to have my logo.
But you know what? Rita was telling me that those glasses are more for Oregon style Pinots, and these are more for the California, more that Burgundian elegant style of the wines you do. So she was telling me she likes this glass for the Pinot. She likes the lip too, but she likes this one preferable. Hopefully we're going to get Riedel on here with us one day, and they can work with us too. And stemless works as well. Stemless, you don't have to replace as much because you don't snap the glasses. Which is nice. Oh, I know, David, our cruise is canceled. We're very upset. But hopefully you're going to come on the next one if we do one. Anyways.
It's not canceled yet.
It's not canceled yet. You are correct. All this stuff can turn around.
Nice.
I have faith.
I have my suitcase packed. I pack months ahead of time, you know.
He packs months ahead of time. He's absolutely correct. And he has an extreme, very set way of packing his clothes. And yeah, he's already packed for this year's cruise and the cruise that hasn't even been planned yet. He's ready.
I'm ready. I can leave at a moment's notice.
He's ready to go. All right, well, we're going to close this one up. We absolutely appreciate everyone for joining. A couple of things. We've had so many people reach out to us, check to see if we're okay. We're checking to see if you're okay, all this good stuff. We would love to have, if you got some videos or pictures of you sheltering in place, a little bit of wine, send them my way. I love them. I've been doing a weekly update on Facebook, and I'm happy to include you. I'm always looking for material. So feel free to shoot me an email or do it via Facebook or YouTube or whatever you want to do. But we'd love to see some pictures or whatnot of what everybody's doing. What's up?
Keep safe. Keep safe. We'll just do this.
Yes, all that stuff. And again, every Thursday we're going to be doing. Oh, there's Simone. She came in. Cheers. Simone travels with
my travel team. I have Simone and Kristen always go with us on our tours.
We do. We're the worker bees.
Everybody organized.
Yeah, it's called herding cats, if I'm correct. Yeah. Anyways, we'd love to see you. Tuesday, we're going to do Tuesdays in the cellar again. That just simply means Ben and I are going to, Ben's going to grab a bottle of wine from his cellar. I'm going to grab a bottle of wine from the winery cellar, and we will enjoy those together with you. So if you have any bottle of our wine or a wine, join us. We would love it. We'll just chat about stuff. Erin, Dan's daughter-in-law is balancing her wine glass on the newborn's head. Absolutely.
Perfect.
She's sleeping, I assume. But yeah, I love it. Oh, Randall's on Frankie. You guys are amazing. Yeah, send us pictures, send us videos. We would love it. We'd love to see you Tuesday. Love to see you on Thursdays. Why not? We're sheltering in place. Papapietro Perry Winery in your glass makes it that much easier. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. Cheers.
Cheers. See you in a couple of days.
All next week.